Let's just wipe off the lens here, try and get it nice and clear. Let's make sure I got a good signal down here. Okay, yeah, good. Got a good signal. Alright guys, welcome to the live stream. So I've got a few things that I have got planned for today. Now, let's see. So bear with me for a second. Just woke up recently, and I just turned on the fish lights just like a minute ago. So kind of getting my bearings here. All right. Now, you know what? Maybe I ought to get some WD-40 for this chair. Anywho, so the tanks, they need some work on them. Now, what I'm planning to do is ultimately fix up the 40 breeder. And let me undo this part over here. The 40 breeder over there, right? So here's the deal. I want to use the 40 breeder for some bigger species. But the problem is there's so many Malaysian trumpet snails that whenever I try and feed them, the snails get to everything first. And then the snails take all the food, and then all the other stuff is just unhappy, and then they're hungry. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a clownfish. And, I'm sorry, not a clownfish, a clown loach. Difference. Anywho, clown loaches should eat the Malaysian trumpet snails, because from what I understand, they'll kind of go at the loach and kind of suck at the shell until they forcibly pull the snail out of its cocoon. Okay, not a cocoon, it's shell. Can you tell I'm tired? But once I get rid of the Malaysian trumpet snails, then I can start putting some bigger species in here and doing more fun things like those panther crabs, or maybe those freshwater prawns that I wanted to try out. Now, I do got assassin snails in here, and the assassin snails have been working hard, eating all the Malaysian trumpet snails, or as many as they can. They're just not fast enough. You know, I've been using assassin snails for almost a year now, and it just can't keep up with the reproductive rate of Malaysian trumpet snails. So, here's what I'm going to do. First off, I've got to move the dwarf crayfish out of there and put them in a tank. I've got one that I know I'm going to put them in over in the 10 gallons here. That way they can get fed on a consistent basis and nothing is stealing their food. And then I'm going to take Vladimir, my vampire shrimp, and honestly, I'll probably put him with the dwarf crayfish. He's actually bigger than the dwarf crayfish, and whenever they get into any altercation, Vladimir kicks their butt. Like, he is a scaredy shrimp, but when it comes right down to it, he can hold his own against a juvenile dwarf crayfish. So I don't think there's a problem there. Now, beyond that, I've got all these assassin snails, and I want to save the assassin snails because, assassin snails are handy. I don't want to just get rid of them. They are kind of pricey. With the amount that I do have, I want to save them. So, one of these tanks is going to get a bunch of assassin snails. It'll probably be that tank way over there in the corner. And I got to clean that one up a bit too. Now, I've also got this tank down here with Peaches, my Pleco. Actually, now that I think about it, maybe I could put the assassins down where Peaches is, and I can finally put Peaches back up in the 40 breeder. I don't think a clown loach and a bushy-nosed pleco are necessarily going to argue with each other too much. One's a bottom feeder, and the other one is a little different. So there's a lot to go through right now. I've also got to start. Well, actually, you know what? I still have a bunch of RODI plus Shrimp King products, which, if I look at the recommended specs for dwarf crayfish and all that, they're not far off from the specs that I get from using RO plus Shrimp King, GH plus KH. So I think I'm good, but I am going to do some water changes, and I'm going to remove a few of the dead plants that are floaters, because floaters, they're easy to keep alive, but when you have the entire surface area of a tank covered with them, they really have this issue where there's just not enough space to go around, and some of them die. So then it creates some ammonia, and then nitrite, and then you got plants sucking up the nitrate from there. So it's like almost self-sustaining in the way that they, their circle of life, which is kind of weird. But so first off, let's get those dwarf crayfish into a more suitable tank, because you know what? I like the fact that they can kind of finagle and do their stuff here in the 40 gallon, but I think they need more space. Or, I'm sorry, they need a more controlled space before that. Otherwise, those Mimosan trumpet snails are going to continue to keep eating their food, which is not good. That's why their numbers dwindled. They used to have like 15 of them, and now I've got 3, because every time I fed them, the snails would get to the food first. And I saw you guys' comment. What's up, guys? Thanks for joining me on the live stream here. Let's see. We got Jesse Tanks. What's up? We got DGRO. How's it going? This is going to be kind of a long live stream, and I may actually try doing a live stream today at the pet store. No planaria. It's funny you should mention that. Now, I do have no planaria, and I was actually the first one on Amazon in the United States to review no planaria on Amazon. And I have tried it. Here's the dealio. It works great for sensitive snails like nerites, but when it comes to things like bladder snails, Malaysian trumpet snails, and ram's horns, those are what I would consider in the pest class category of snails. Now, in the pest class, they're very hard to get rid of, and this stuff, even at high doses, simply does not kill them. There's always plenty that will be left over, and I kid you not, I've had bladder snails survive in a toilet. Like this fish room was originally, when this house was built, was supposed to be a third restroom, and because of that, there's a toilet over in the corner. It never turned into a restroom; it turned into my fish room. So there's a toilet over there where I drain all the water. Very convenient. But I have a bunch of bladder snails living in there for like a month. So just goes to show, pest class snails, man, they can really survive, man. Hey, we got SS Medeal. Hey, what's up? How's it going? Thanks for joining the live stream. But yeah, in other words, no planaria is a great product for planaria, but for controlling snails, just not quite there. If you really want to get rid of snails, you need something like Gastropex. But the only problem with Gastropex is that it has a little bit of copper in it. And copper is really bad for invertebrates. It'll kill any invertebrate, really. That's what copper does. So, first off, let's get rid of some excess plants from one of these tanks, because the first thing I want to do is get those dwarf crayfish out of there and into a tank over there. So, if you join me over here, and by the way, the ghost shrimpies are doing okay today. I haven't checked on the babies yet because I need a magnifying glass to kind of do that. Oops. Trying to keep the chat up here. Equilibrium GH West has copper. It could be that it does contain some copper because some plants, I believe, like copper, but there's always an acceptable and an overkill amount of dosing on anything. Too much of anything is a bad thing, you know. So I think in equilibrium, the amount of copper in there is negligible for the most part for most invertebrates when it involves snails. As far as shrimps go, I'm not entirely sure. Um, I would have to look into that more, but a great place to figure that out, Seachem has their own web forum, and you can get information directly from Seachem and other aquarists on their forums, which is great because it specializes around their products. And because Seachem is so prevalent in the aquarium industry, you know. Ah, yes, Hikari shrimp cuisine is good. I like Hikari products. So, this is the tank that I need to get ready. This one has never had a living thing inside of it except the plants and some bacteria. So, first off, there's a bunch of dead plants right around the corner here. But you can see also there's a bunch of plants with the roots and stuff right around here. And we're going to scoop out a bunch of those because we don't need a ton of them. So, first off, if I get a little scooper here, and I've got a little thing that I use to keep all these plants because floating plants really grow pretty quick, and I found myself with way more than I needed originally because I overestimated completely about what was necessary for my tanks. So some of these are nice and green, some of them are a little brown. It almost feels ashamed to throw them away, but did you know that certain plants like duckweed, which is often referred to as like the herpes of the aquarium trade, can very easily be turned into fish food, shrimp food, snail food. It's actually got a lot of good nutrients and stuff that when you prepare it right, it's just basically free food that grows like crazy in your tanks. And while it's growing, it's sucking up nitrate and a bunch of other harmful stuff that could be in your tank. So, and if you ever wonder about how good they are at doing that, just remember water treatment facilities for your drinking water, for municipality water, often use plants like duckweed and other floaters to suck up heavy metals and such. So their use is well documented for purifying water. So keep that in mind. If I was ever in a situation where I had some dirty, dirty water, I wanted to get it clean, I would wash off some floaters and put it in some like rainwater and suck up whatever gunk might be in there for a few days and then filter it out a little more before I drank it. Just because, I mean, that's what I would do if I was in a serious like emergency situation. Just because I know floaters are really good at doing that particular task. You know, the nice thing is this can drip all at once because this room is just solid concrete on the ground. It dries up like that. I actually left the RODI system on by accident for like 5 extra hours, and the whole room was like a little bit flooded, and I'm like, great. But I'm like, well, this will take a few hours to dry. Sure enough, a few hours later, everything was dry. It's very arid down here, so the only humidity you get is from the fish tanks. So, getting rid of all the unnecessary plants. My God, it's so densely packed in here. I don't need this many floaters. And I guess this is also why some people hate floaters, just because they're a low maintenance plant in the sense that they don't need anything special to grow, and they're high maintenance in the sense that you need to constantly keep removing them, which you got to keep removing them and stuff. Some people just don't like that, but I think the benefits outweigh the cons if I had to choose between having them and that. That being said, gotta make sure they stay healthy and green. They start turning brown on you, that's not good. Now, alright. Look at all those leafy greens. I'm not too concerned about wasting these plants because, like I said, they grow back really quick. Now, you can see the bottom again because the entire surface is not covered in plants. And actually, we got a few of them with some really good roots. You know, the water might evaporate, but those plants on the ground are not going to. Plants. But anywho, maybe I should get like some cleaning tools for the ground here. All these plants everywhere. All right, so I got to do a water change on this because this thing here really has never had a water change. It's never really needed any because, like I said, it's been sitting here. The water's been aging for like 3 months now with nothing in it. I'm hoping that the water is good, and I've got some water already pre-mixed and ready to go. That's been sitting for a while, aerating, so it's got oxygen in it. So let's get some of this gunk out the way, and I gotta snake my siphon tube around this tripod here. There we go. And let's remove some of this water and some of the dead plant matter off of the ground here. And then we'll refill it back up. I'm not going to remove all the water, just some of it. Probably like 35% of it. Just because of all this decayed plant matter. And then after that, easy squeezy, lemon peasy, filling it back up. Now, hopefully this tank is ready to go and good. I don't see why it wouldn't be. And we're about almost 25% there. I know this is kind of one of the more mundane parts of fish tank keeping, just kind of doing the maintenance, but it's all necessary. So we're almost down to about where I want to get it. It's about 30%. And from there. All right, yeah, that's good. Okay, so that's about 30%. Now, I'm going to grab my hose that goes to my vat. We're going to keep my other stuff, the pre-mixed stuff that's been aging for a little while. And it's been aerating, that's for sure. Let's see, is the pump? Yep, and it's been circulating too, which means everything's still mixed. Which is good. I'll just close off that valve so that I can bring the hose over to where I need to get it. Hold on, I'll be right back in frame in just a second. All right. Am I getting prawn? I am seriously thinking about it. I don't think prawn are really all that difficult to keep. I'm trying to see if there's a local distributor of the prawn. Because if I can get it local, maybe I could start out with some bigger prawn rather than the super tiny ones. Because remember, these prawns are going to get about like this big, about 6 to 8 inches long in body length. And that's not including their claws. Their claws are another few inches. But I'm hoping to get some prawn at some point. here's the clean water. This is a drinking water grade hose. It's connected to my vat where I make my RO water and add minerals back to it. Best thing is usually I can just kind of set it like that to make things a little easier. Now, this is just one tank. And I'm going to put the dwarf crays in here. And then I'm going to feed them some nom-noms because I'm sure they're very hungry. Crayfish always are. I have frozen sweet peas, but they're upstairs, so I'm just going to give them some general bottom feeder foods that I have laying around down here for the moment. So it's a good thing I got all these tanks because being able to switch things around on a moment's notice definitely is helpful. I know with invertebrates you should really be much more careful about it, but yeah. Oh, very nice. Now goldfish might end up eating those ghost shrimp. You never know. It depends on what kind of goldfish, I guess. If you have your standard comet goldfish, they'll get up to about like this long, so that's one of those feeder fish, because those are technically carp. But if you got like a fancy goldfish, they'll still about maybe this long. But they'll probably see shrimp as food. They do see snails as food. So like your typical bladder snail is something that they will definitely peck at and try to eat. Even though it's not naturally part of their diet, goldfish, man, they just put anything in their mouths. So you might want to keep an eye on that. Make sure they're all good and they get along with each other, lest you find yourself missing a shrimp. But at the very least, ghost shrimp are pretty cheap. So, financially speaking, they're not a huge loss if something happens, but they're still your little buddies. And, you don't want anything bad to happen to your little buddies. All right. Water's looking good. Excuse me. All right. I'd say that's about filled. All right. Okay. Give me just a sec. I just got to put this hose back over here. Keep circulating the water inside the vat. Okay. Now, here comes the fun part, which, actually, hold on. Let me at least test the TDS so I get a rough idea about where I'm sitting at. Break out the TDS meter. All right. Sit here. Oh. Actually, the TDS is a bit higher than I expected. 548. Okay. That's interesting. That might be due to a bunch of the plants that decomposed and then eventually they start to dissolve in the water. So this might need a larger water change than I first thought, which is okay. But I'm going to check the TDS of the water where they're currently in and see how that compares. Give me just a second. It's a good thing I got this swivelly chair because I was moving around here, it'd be a pain in the butt. Yeah, the TDS here in the 40 is around 470. And it is a different set of minerals that has been used. So, technically speaking, you should acclimate them. Yeah, goldfish, depending on the goldfish, their growth can be stunted. It's not technically good for them. They should grow out a bit bigger, but I did have a goldfish once, and I called him, his name was Jeffrey, and we got him as an itty little bitty, like 25-cent fish. Then he grew, and grew, and grew, and I'm like, we can't keep Jeffrey in this tank anymore. he got like this big. I'm like, we got to do something. So we ended up donating Jeffrey to a local store where someone got him, and I'm glad someone got him and gave him a nice home. But this needs a little bit more water changing, I would assume. So just a little bit more water we're going to take out. I mean, we're going to stir it up a little bit, kind of mix the waters because, you know, we filled on the top, so over at the bottom. Kind of get an even consistency between everything here. Get it nice and clean. Although, with crayfish being opportunistic scavengers, they'll kind of munch on anything. Even, you know, I'm not sure if they really will munch on decaying plant matter. That's more of a snail thing. But, I'm trying to keep snails out of these tanks just because they're such a pain in the butt. Now, I have been thinking about going back to breeding bladder snails. Yeah, bladder snails, a snail that I despise. Because right now, one of the things that's keeping me from buying all these different things like prawns and... yeah. Sorry about that glitch in the stream. I'm back. Yeah, I'll never be rid of those snails, you know. It's like rust. Once rust gets on your car, you'll never be rid of it. But I'm thinking about breeding them because, believe it or not, they are an easy thing to sell. Most people hate them, but there's a lot of people who live in rural communities who have fish tanks, and their nearest pet store is like 30 minutes away, and that's a good amount of gas. I'm not making Derpy ugly. I like Derpy. Talking about my car? Anywho. So, it's easier for a lot of people with like pufferfish and stuff like that to just order online in bulk. Oh. Hi, Mike. I just realized that's you. Everyone say hi to Michael McPartland over here. He's a friend of mine in real life. And he doesn't like the fact that I painted my brake calipers yellow, even though I love my brake calipers being yellow. So, off topic, Mike. All right, let's get that last bit of water for the water change. Oh, should have went red, huh? Yeah, like every other person ever. Oh, come on. Car's supposed to be unique to you. I don't want what everyone else has. I want something that's my own. Once again, though, little off topic. Maybe one day I'll do a live stream about cars. Actually, Mike, you missed the other day at O'Reilly's down the street. There was a classic muscle car show going on in the parking lot. You would have liked that. But anywho, so we are just getting this filled up, and then it should be good to go. And I'm going to put the dwarf crayfish in here. And then I'm going to put peaches back in the 40 breeder. And then I'm going to remove as many assassin snails as I can. And then I'm going to put them in the 10-gallon. It depends how far decayed it is. Ghost shrimps will eat some fleshy stuff, but once again, eating like decaying flesh is more of a snail's territory. A crayfish, on the other hand, would probably eat it because crayfish don't care. They're opportunistic scavengers, so they'll eat. They're omnivorous. So they'll eat plants or meat. So as far as ghost shrimp, I wouldn't count on ghost shrimp taking care of that in any timely manner. You'd end up getting a ton of ammonia off of that dead fish, and start getting spikes and everything else like nitrite and nitrate as it decomposes. You'd be better off just taking it out of the tank and disposing of the fish that way rather than trying to let something eat it if you don't have like a crayfish. Then put this hose back here. Okay. So now let us take our TDS meter, which here it is. So I'm one of those guys who I just have something and then I move it aside and I'm like, wait a minute, where did I put it? All right, we're 450, about 460, which is about where everything else is at in the other tank. So I think we're okay to go with this tank to put the dwarf crayfish in, which means now we got to catch the dwarf crayfish, which means going all the way over here, catching the fishy fish. Well, not the fishy fish, the dwarf crayfish, which I see one right there. You know, one thing I want to do so I don't kill the battery here, because I'm going to be live streaming a lot today. So I'm going to be going to the pet store, and I'm going to see if they'll let me live stream in the pet store, and maybe you guys can help pick out a clown loach if they let me live stream there. I'll let the people decide. Now, 400, a lot of people think, oh my goodness, that's a lot. But let me tell you, the water out of my tap here and the well water is about 850 TDS. And the fact of the matter is the TDS really is not a good measurement of anything in particular because it doesn't tell you what the water's comprised of. Yeah, some people say it's just way too high, but I've got shrimps that their ideal quote-unquote TDS is like 220, 250. But I got them surviving in my 55 over here at like 800. And it really goes to show it's more about what the water is comprised of rather than that particular parameter. And what I think people will find is that the recommendations for fish and shrimps and snails and stuff, they all base it off of wherever these creatures natively come from. But they forget to mention or even really think about the fact that are the waters they really natively come from actually any good? For instance, like I can go over to my fishing spot and that's their native waters where they come from. And I can get a fish there and the water's garbage. Put them in my tanks and they instantly perk up, feel a lot better, and I'm like, there's a difference between natural waters and what they're actually going to do perfectly well in. They're really two different things, and people need to stop thinking that's synonymous. I'm just reading the comments here. Oh, that's the thing about crayfish in the wild is they are completely exhausted. They are just simply trying to find food and then run away from predators all day. So by the time that you can go and grab them by the shoreline, they are just about dead because they are so exhausted. That's what, when I go to the fishing spot that I go to, it's so easy to catch like 30 or 40 of them in one day. And then bring them in my tanks. And once they go in my tanks, they get fed well. The water's regulated. It's perfectly cycled and everything. Way better parameters than at the lake. I'll tell you that much for sure. And then they perk up again. They molt, they get food, and then they are spunky and they do way better than they ever did in the wild. And like I said, you know, just because they come from someplace doesn't mean those parameters are necessarily the best thing for them. So, you know, something to keep in mind. People just use that as synonymous and they think, oh, it comes from this place, therefore it must be good for them. And I'm like, not really. You'd be surprised. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put my carabiner with, and of course I don't have my charging cable with me, so that's actually pointless. Herp-de-derp. Well, I'm sure I'll make it. I got a full charge. All right, so back to the project here. So normally I wouldn't advise taking an invertebrate like a dwarf crayfish and just throwing it in another tank. They should be drip acclimated, but the parameters are pretty darn close to each other, and usually crayfish don't have a big problem with water parameters so long as they're not drastically off. So in the interest of doing this, and this is a bit of a time constraint kind of situation, I'm going to have to just do a swap and drop. So take them out of here and drop them in, which once again, I don't really recommend doing it like that. But given the amount of things I've got to do at the moment to try and make a situation rectified here, I got to kind of take care of this kind of quick. But while I take these out, I'm going to check the sex of the crayfish and see if I've got any males and females. Because if I do, that'd be great, because maybe I'll actually get babies at some point if I keep them in close enough proximity to each other. Let's take this lid off. Let's see if we can scoop a cray. Yep, he's got his defenses up. Oh, he's scuttling away. Come on. Oh, come on. Get in there. No, no, come on. It's like a little carnival game. There we go. Hi, little crane. Oh, careful. Oh, you are spunky. Let go of the net. There we go. Little itty bitty cray. I don't know if I'm going to be able to tell the sex at this age. Let's see. 1, 2, 3. This one's got 4 sets of pleopods. I think females have 5. So now we've got a. Unfortunately, like I said, I don't recommend this, but the water's been pretty good. And he's just kind of chilling on my finger now. I wish I had the camera a little better. This is Here you go. Let's bring this closer so you guys can see. So this guy right here, actually, you know what? I bet if I switch the camera around, we could zoom in. See, his color's not that great because I've been feeding him, but the snails keep getting to their food, so he's a little pale. So we are going to keep moving them from one spot to the next. So it'll take a minute to scoop out these cray. Let's see. Oh, here's another one in the same exact spot. Where'd I put my net? Just had my net. Oh, here it is. I'm so absent-minded today. It's just going to be one of those days, isn't it? I put something down 1 minute and I completely forget where it is the next. Come on, there you go. Spunky little guys. Try not to get the floating plants inside of the net here. Alright, once again, pretty young. So, no, you're grabbing the net too. You're not supposed to. Sorry about that glitch again. So look here. Careful. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think we've got, I'm looking at them both, I'm pretty sure we've got 2 different sexes, actually. Yes, I know. Here you go, little pretty buddy. Okay. So it's kind of hard to tell their sex at this age because they are about halfway to reproductive age. So they're still kind of small. Now I know there's at least one more. Oh, there he is. Well, I don't know if it's a he or a she, but we're about to find out. And this one's a little bigger than the rest because this one's been really fighting for that food whenever it gets to it. No. No, don't you go. Ah, you're running the driftwood. Come on, buddy. I know. Gotcha. Okay. Let me just get this net to stay still. All right. Let's see if I can identify this one's sex. One, two, three, four. Still a little hard to tell. Let's put her back in the water. Yeah, she's a spunky, feisty one. She's definitely done the best out of all of them. All right, so now, because they are finally separated and in a more enclosed environment, nom nom time. And this is the easy part so far because next, I gotta get all those assassin snails out of the tank because I want to save the assassin snails. So if I get a clown loach, it'll eat every kind of snail. And assassin snails, you can feed them whatever food, you know, they don't have to eat other snails. And fun fact, assassin snails actually are not snails, they're actually a type of mollusk. So I'm hoping these little guys pick up the scent of the food. Actually, it looks like they were trying to eat the decaying plant matter, which that'd be great if they do eat it. But they've got some noms for them. And I know you can't really see. You know what? Let me switch this camera on the other side so you can actually see the little guys. And we'll bring this one forward. There they are. So they'll take a little time to acclimate. They'll probably end up molting sometime soon. So they've been in the same water for quite some time now, and you know when you change the water parameters that quickly, they tend to molt. So that takes care of those little guys. And now I have got to get all those assassin snails out, or at least a bunch of them. Now, let's talk about the plan for that. Now, first, I was expecting I was expecting the assassin snail population to grow within the last month or two. I was hoping to see some assassin snail eggs because I've had assassin snails in here for a long time. But they never really reproduced. And then I got an idea, and I'm like, is Peaches, my bushy-nosed pleco, is Peaches eating the eggs? And it turns out that, yeah, bushy-nosed plecos will kind of eat whatever eggs that they'll find. So I had him in his little own 10-gallon here, and I was actually going to sell at one point, but once Peaches kind of needed his own tank, I had to keep it. And I've been trying to figure out if I can just get more assassin snails. I don't need to get anything else, but I'm just not seeing assassin snail eggs anywhere. And I'm starting to wonder if there's something else eating assassin snail eggs. And I'm starting to think, are Malaysian trumpet snails enough of a bastard to eat the eggs? I'm sorry, are Malaysian trumpet snails enough of a bastard to eat the assassin snail eggs? And I'm like, no, I wouldn't put it past them. But, you know, I see the assassin snails eating. That's great, but if you look at how many Malaysian trumpet snails there are, you can see they're littered everywhere. Now, yeah, okay, you could make the trap, and I've tried the trap. You can do all these sorts of different things to try and get them, you know, catch them, but I want them, like, gone. So later today, I'm going to get that clown loach. And clown loaches, I think, are shoaling fishes, so you need more than one clown loach. Otherwise, they kind of get depressed. They're a social fish. So what I'm going to do is first, I am going to put Peaches, a bushy-nosed pleco, back in the 40 because Peaches, a bushy-nosed pleco actually really does need driftwood because bushy-nosed plecos and plecos in general, they poop a lot and they need a ton of fiber in their diet. So they need some sort of wood to kind of gnaw on, and that gnawing on that wood gives them that fiber to help them poop. So he's been without fiber for a while, and I could give him fibrous foods, but I can't guarantee that he'll eat it. So driftwood is really important. So let's get Peaches out. I'm going to have to use the bigger net to get Peaches. And once again, kind of a drop and slop, but these parameters are even more closely related than the other ones. Now, Peaches is a quick fish. He gets startled really easily. Oh, but he's in the net. Everyone say hi to Peaches. Now, Peaches, you're going to go back into your home tank, buddy. Yay, you get more room to swim around. Come on. Out of the net, you goofball. You know, it's because he's got scales, he gets stuck on the net. Ah, Peaches. Goof. Yes, I know. Well, it's your part. Well, I guess it's not really your fault. Oh, man, you are really on there, huh? Ooh, there you go. His barbs on the front got stuck on the net. He was a little startled there, but he's okay. Shrimp? Shrimp do perfectly fine by themselves. But, well, I shouldn't say that. Let me clarify. Some shrimp definitely should absolutely have more of one of them in their tank, because otherwise they will be extremely skittish and you'll just never see them. Like my vampire shrimp, Vladimir. Vampire shrimps, they are expensive. They're like $18 a shrimp at your local pet stores. And they're filter feeders. You know, they don't attack or eat anything except whatever's floating in the water. Now, if you have just one of them, they almost never come out. But if you have a few of them, then they become a bit more brave. And it doesn't have to be another vampire shrimp. It could be like a bamboo shrimp, another filter feeder that they kind of relate to, and they do better. But other shrimps like ghost shrimp or your typical Neos, they do perfectly fine by themselves. They don't need to be in any sort of like big amount together in order to be happy. So that answers. I hope that answers the question. But now we can say hello to Peaches. Peaches is one of my oldest fish. I've actually had Peaches ever since he was just a tiny fry. I had special ordered him off the internet from a breeder. Hi, little buddy. I know, the move was a little stressful. You're okay, though. Oh, you're fine. He was a little freaked out from the move. But he's wiggling around. He'll find his place again in the driftwood. And actually, Peaches and Vladimir hang out all the time. They're almost always in the driftwood. All right, so 2 things have been done so far. I've got the 10-gallon tank down here freed up for the assassin snails. I've taken the dwarf crayfish out of here so that when I put the clown launches in here, they don't become a problem. Got Peaches back in the 40 so that I can put the assassin snails back down here. Now, really, it comes to a matter of Vladimir, my vampire shrimp. I do want to move him over to where the dwarf crayfish are because I don't know how Vladimir is going to interact with a clown loach. Clown loaches are not super friendly, and I'm only going to get the small ones. I don't plan on keeping them for a long time. They're just strictly going to be a utilitarian fish to clear up an infestation. And after that, I'll donate the fish. And I don't know, maybe I'll... Well, I would love to be able to do a giveaway, but it'd have to be like a local thing. Where I could meet up with like a subscriber locally and give a clownfish away. A clown loach. Which I would have no problem doing. But maybe I'll go to like a local fish meetup, like a fish swap. And do something like that. I've never been to a fish swap, but I've wanted to go to one for a while now. So the next part of this really is just kind of a tedious task. And it's not really the most enjoyable thing to watch, me just scooping snails out constantly. So for right now, I'm going to end this live stream. But there is a chance that I'll live stream again later today in a few hours. So if you're interested in seeing what I've got going on in the fish area, probably over at Petco. Sometimes they allow me to record inside of the stores, and they just revamped. They got like new tanks and everything. Everything's beautiful. Ooh, got the hiccups. So I might do that there, and maybe I'll let you guys help me pick out clown loach. We'll do it like by vote. How about that? See if I can swing that, I'll do that, and we'll go from there. So for right now, this is the end of the live stream. Thanks for joining me on the initial parts of getting things worked on here, and I will take it from there in just a little bit. Hopefully, I'll be back online, and you can join me for some more fishy adventures. So, until then. Ta-ta for now.